Hey everybody, how's it going? A lot of people have been asking, what do I think of Samsung's new fake parts program, where they're going to make parts available to people who want to be able to fix their own phones. There's a reason I'm calling this program fake, and it's because I learned a lesson from what happened 3 years ago when I talked about Apple's program in the best possible light prior to details coming out about it. My theory at the time was that if somebody within Apple was actually pro-right to repair, I wanted to encourage them as much as humanly possible to keep going. Unfortunately, the reality of the program that I'm talking about is that it was very anti-repair in many different ways, and in my opinion was a complete PR stunt designed to get in front of legislation and trick legislators into believing that right to repair is not an actual problem. For those of you who haven't followed along, in August of 2019, Apple came out with a program where they were going to partner with independent repair shops and allow them to get access to OEM parts, manuals, and everything like that. Unfortunately, the reality of it, the more that we dug into the program, is that many of the parts that were made available at a price that was about the same, if not more, than what that particular device would actually go for on the used market. When it came to the iPhone 6s, you could literally buy a used iPhone 6s working for less money than you could buy the screen for. They did not make charge ports available for the phone. They did not make power buttons or volume flexes available for the phone. You could not get schematics or diagrams, and they made nothing available for MacBooks. When they finally made parts available for MacBooks, they did not make LCD cells available by themselves, just the whole assembly. Keyboards by itself, just the whole top case. They did not make chips available or anything available. But further, adding insult to injury, not only were you required to report information on your customers to Apple, but at the end of the day, they could actually audit your facility. And if you had parts in your facility that you were not supposed to have, like ISL 9240, CD3217 chips, schematics, board views, all the things that I need to do my effing job, you could actually get in trouble with Apple, be pulled from the program, and be penalized and punished for it. Well, at the end of the day, I made a 7-minute video going over everything that makes this program complete and utter garbage. Unfortunately, the damage was already done. They released a piece of news with a PR-friendly title talking about how they support repair shops, and most ordinary people did not read through the entirety of it, nor are they going to look for some 16-minute Louis Rossmann video where I'm actually reading through the fine print of the program to demonstrate why this program is functionally useless. They got their PR win, and when you speak to senators or congresspeople or even members of the ordinary public, they're just going to ask, why don't you join this program? It looks like we don't need a right to repair bill. They already did everything, even though nothing's actually available. And the sad thing is that last November, they talked about how they're making parts and manuals available to all. However, when you actually read about the program, they're not going to be doing this for a year. And it's going to be based on the IRP program, meaning that virtually nothing that is actually useful is going to be made available. And I don't want to make that mistake again. I'm not going to give you a PR win unless your program is actually usable. And I feel kind of crappy that I got tricked in that way. So let's read over what this program is. This is from Samsung's newsroom. It says Samsung expands customer-first care experience with new self-repair program. In delivering a customer-first care experience nationwide, Samsung is continually offering more convenient and accessible options for consumers to prolong the use of their devices, promote a circular economy, and minimize e-waste. Today, Samsung Electronics America announced that Galaxy device owners will be able to take product repair into their own hands for Samsung's most popular models, the Galaxy S20 and S21 family of products, and the Galaxy Tab S7 Plus beginning this summer. Samsung consumers will get access to genuine device parts, repair tools, and intuitive visual step-by-step repair guides. Samsung is collaborating with iFixit, the leading online repair community, on this program. More information will be shared once self-repair is available. To start, Galaxy device owners will be able to replace display assemblies, back glass, and charging ports, and return used parts to Samsung for responsible recycling. In the future, Samsung plans to expand self-repair for more devices and repairs from our extensive product portfolio. And the rest of it is just corporate wankery, which is not worth reading. Now, what's interesting is that as you dig into the program, there are parts that they're not going to be making available. One of them being the number one wear part in a cell phone, the first part that is guaranteed to die, regardless of how nice you are to the phone, regardless of whether you drop it or get liquid on it, the battery. The one thing that makes this device temporary rather than more permanent, the battery. Removing the battery from the Galaxy S20 is difficult, which is probably why it's not initially included as an available part in the new program. The press releases absence of any mentions of battery replacement options. We insist the Samsung display assemblies that have pre-glued batteries attached to them. This simplifies the repair process for the S20 and S21 since freeing the battery in these models requires copious amounts of isopropyl alcohol and strenuous, careful force to pull it out. Oh no! You may have to use something that you could buy at any drugstore and a little bit of actual patience to pull the battery out of your device. What are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to bundle that battery with the screen and then sell it for $200 to $300 to $400. Any of you who are involved in the mobile repair community probably know that Samsung screens are expensive. One of the reasons that we don't offer Samsung screen repair at the store is because when a phone goes for $300 in the used market, my cost for the display assembly, new and OEM, is $280. The customer is going to think I'm ripping them off, and usually they tend to respond in that manner. They go F yourself, or no, or that's a ripoff, and hang up the phone. So I'd rather simply say we don't do that, try this place, than get cursed out by customers. And frankly, we're busy enough with board repair and data recovery anyway to be putting time into repairs that are going to make us 20 to 30 bucks with an angry customer. So if you just take a look on eBay, and to be clear, these are prices on eBay where people have a heavy price competition for refurbs and maybe knockoffs and unofficial stuff like that. This is the price for these display assemblies without the battery from refurbs, used, knockoff, whatever. 178, 158, 123, 179, 112, 112, 138, 110, 112, 129. What do you think it's going to cost when it's coming directly from Samsung with the battery? We're going to be looking at $200 to $300 if you want to replace the battery in your device. Do you think that this is going to result in less people choosing to buy something that is knockoff from some random third-party seller? No way in hell. I over here have a Samsung S10e, and I like this phone for a number of reasons. First, it actually fits in my hand. Secondly, it has a micro SD card slot, so I can choose the amount of storage I want without having to deal with Samsung, telling me I have to pay upfront for the amount of storage that I want. And three, it has a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. So I can do things like plug in this little microphone. So when I do videos outside and it's windy, you guys can hear me because I have this microphone here that I couldn't plug in otherwise. If this new version of Android gets released that screws up the ability of a high resolution Bluetooth headset to actually work to the point where only this crappy jobber will work without distortion, I can just say, screw it. I'm not going to spend half an hour of my life troubleshooting this, and I can plug in a wired set of headphones. There's a lot of things that I like about this particular phone. I was able to buy this phone for about $290 on the used market, and I've used it for several years. Once the phone died on me, or started to die on me very, very quickly, I bought a replacement battery. Now, admittedly, I would have preferred to have bought an original battery, and I actually did everything I could to try and buy an original battery. There is an authorized distributor for parts and accessories called SamsungParts.com. Unfortunately, as you can see when you bring up my phone, literally everything is out of stock. Like, the entirety of it is out of stock. Customer first experience, right? And so I wound up going and buying some battery from some seller that had a bunch of great ratings and reviews and feedback, and it kind of works. It goes to 15% and then it turns off. There's a very, very thin line between 0 and 15%. I would have loved to have been able to buy an original battery, and I would have loved to have been able to buy an original battery from Samsung. Because again, I will use this phone until it dies. However, I am not going to spend $200 to $300 to buy a screen when my screen is just fine to replace a battery. And this is just so incredibly beyond aggravating. Like, Apple will sell you the battery but not the charge port. Samsung will sell you the charge port, but not the battery. It's like if you put both of these programs together, you get one parts program that is actually maybe worth a shit. Again, it's one thing to glue the battery into the device in a manner that makes it a royal pain in the ass to replace, and then not offer flagship phones where you can actually replace the battery like you used to be able to do a long time ago, and they were even liquid resistant back then. It's another to glue the battery into the device, then say that we're not going to sell you the battery unless you spend $200 to $300 to buy the entire screen, and then have the balls to say that this is customer first and a friendly parts repair program. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. I know what you're going to say. Listen, they're going to release this program in 3 to 6 months, and then later they'll be expanding it to everything else. It takes time for things to become available. No. We're not talking about taking a 5 nanometer processor and shrinking it to 1 nanometer. We're not talking about Tesla's full self-driving. We're not talking about something that requires hundreds of thousands of PhD level scientists working together around the world in billion-dollar laboratories to bring us new technology. We're talking about making a battery available on an e-commerce website. We have been selling batteries in America for over 100 years, and we have had e-commerce websites for over 25 years. This is not that hard. This is not that crazy, and anybody who thinks that it actually should take several years to make a battery available from the time that you make a press release is out of their mind. I get it. Supply chains are tough right now. I get it. It takes time for the PR department to actually, eventually trickle down to the people that are going to be doing the work, but it's a battery. It's a battery. We should have higher standards than this, and I'm going to have higher standards than this. You don't get to call this a parts repair program for a smartphone that's customer first and friendly and all this other stuff and pro right to repair if I have to spend $200 to $300 to replace a battery in a phone? Further, again, can I buy parts for the Samsung S10e? No. S20, S21, Galaxy Tab, that's it. That's it. Now, again, you were able to produce these phones. You're able to have all the stuff for sale. Why can't I buy parts to them? Why can I only buy parts to these limited devices? And why within those very limited devices can I only buy limited parts to those limited devices? I don't know. And there's one thing I want to be clear about here. I have no disrespect meant for Kyle Wiens or iFixit for this. I've met Kyle Wiens in person. I have a lot of respect for him and what he's doing. He runs a great company, which is more than I can say for my Titanic of a repair shop in New York City. He has a great company, he has a great staff, and he is moving the ball forward every single day. His perspective likely looks something like this. He, in my opinion, seems to be an eternal optimist. He always sees the potential there for positive change. So he probably thinks maybe if we could get Samsung to go on board with this, maybe it'll be easier to kind of coerce them into selling everything else later or slowly push them in the right direction. And in the way he views it, getting screens and back glass and charge ports is better than getting nothing, which technically it is. I do not blame Kyle in any way, shape, or form for this program. He's not the one that's coming up with these restrictions. I know that for sure. If it was up to Kyle, they'd be selling everything. And he is simply taking what he can get because having access to screens and charge ports and back glass is better than nothing. He's taking what he can get. I'm not mad at him for that. This is not his fault. The onus for this lies on Samsung, not Kyle or iFixit. If it wasn't for Kyle and iFixit, maybe they're not making anything available at all. But I still think it's important to call a spade a spade. And in my opinion, this is a garbage program. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think it's unreasonable that I expect if a company says we are going to be making parts available for you to be able to fix your phone, that they sell the battery without making you pay for a screen? Or do you think that they should not be making the battery available because it's dangerous and explosions and, I don't know, volcano and everything else? Let me know. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video, and bye now.